And this will be primarily Alex and I presenting some of that information. So in this presentation, we'll talk about kind of the high level plan, the phases of work, what we're also building from as well. I've debated what to say about the funding aspect of it, but I have a slide for funding, so I'll share some information about that as well. So again, kind of over the plan of estimating this model, the phases of that work, and best estimates of the time frame of that work. And so honestly, I'll probably turn it over to you, Alex.
Yes, I think we're mainly looking forward with this, but we do want to just make sure everyone's on the same page. So we have a couple backward-looking slides, so or context-setting slides. So 5-ish or so of these. So as a reminder, we're building on the ActivitySim platform. As of just a month or so ago, Marty from Boston has joined the Cool Kids table at lunch. So it's even a cooler, more popular table now than it was previously. There's a bunch of cool reasons to go with ActivitySim. I think everyone gets it. If you want to go to the next slide. So, we have the principles on this slide, but money is on this slide. So a big benefit to going to ActivitySim, just to make sure everyone has the context. ODOT is fully stopped as of like 2019. ODOT has fully stopped putting any development dollars towards our current trip-based model or the ABM that we have in house. All of our development dollars have been going towards this new ActivitySim building on the new survey. So that's meant, $35,000 a year for 6 years towards ActivitySim, which is leveraged to be about $500,000 per year across the 15 partners, and several other things which we'll get to at the as the slides continue. But anyways, there's a huge benefit to being on ActivitySim. We have. Once we get there, we'll have great partners like Brian to be able to coordinate with, because they'll be on a similar platform, as well as Marty and a whole bunch of other cool people across the country. So go ahead. Let's see. So everyone gets this, but just a reminder, ActivitySim or moving to an ABM brings a whole bunch of benefits. I like to think about it as when you're representing an individual family and set of travelers, you just have a ton more power than when you try and represent an aggregate zone or a homogenized zone of individuals. And that power gives you the ability to really supercharge your analysis. Go ahead. It's been said many times this morning, but we're building on a huge amount of collaboration and funding savings through the OMSC, both building on the survey work and then I think a lot to do with Chris Johnson in the room, working as a collaborative towards this next set of tools for Oregon. Yeah, go ahead. So Kendra gets naming rights, I think, and Peter gets picture rights, but
Golly gets
picture rights. You're in charge.
I like it.
You're not in charge yet. You can take the credit. You're operating the tool. So all of this work is building towards this great Oregon platform. And I just like this slide because it calls out that the software itself is just the crackly graham crackers. The survey is really like, you wouldn't want to eat a marshmallow-less s'more. That'd be horrible. It wouldn't be a s'more. So the survey data is absolutely critical. You do not have a tool without the survey data. So just I wanted to call out how important that was. It feels like I'm repeating myself a little bit. We're building on quite a foundation here. So we have the concrete's poured. Hopefully it doesn't rain for too long on just our empty concrete foundation before we build our house on this thing. But so we got the survey, we've got the design all done, we've got our GitHub repository, all of the groundwork's complete. We just have to build this house, which is, okay, so that's all the background context. We're going to shift towards the future. Is there any questions on background context? Okay, I think we're good. So where are we headed? So foundation's done. Phase, so there's kind of where we're headed is broken into 3 phases. Not quite sure how I like this numbering because it ignores all the prior phases, but everything else was phase 0. So phase 0 complete. We're on phase 1, 2, 3 right now. So we've got phase 1, where largely I think on agency staff, but can be supported by consultants. We need to get our estimation data together, our estimation data bundles, and that's partially the survey data, but then you have to wrap, I like how Brian brought up what happens if you get a new light rail system or a new floating bridge. Hopefully none of Oregon's bridges are be floating soon. Anyways, because they collapse and fall in the river and they're floating. Anyways, you have to wrap all that survey data with the context of the environment. And so what that means is movement estimation is getting a roughly functioning ABM up and running to get ABM looking data into the estimation stream, where instead of ABM synthesized travelers, we have real OHAS travelers in that survey stream, but wrapped with all of the skims and land use data around them. So we need that estimation data set. So that's phase one. So that all has to be kind of wrapped up this calendar year. And again, like largely on the agency's shoulders, but it can be supported by consultants. Phase two, I've crossed all my fingers that we're going to go live with our consultant support for estimation next month in May. And so then, so that phase two part is like the core estimation work. We're building on the survey, building on the estimation data sets. We're going to have our graham crackers all built and cut into Oregon shapes, like in Peter's picture. Get those graham crackers all set, and then roll into estimation. Put the marshmallow. I don't know. Anyways, it's probably breaking down, but we'll have an actual estimated model, and then with the estimated model, all the behavior is set up, all the formulas are set up. It should produce really good-looking data, but it won't necessarily be perfectly calibrated, validated, sensitivity tested for any given region. And so that's where phase three comes in, likely heavily on individual agency staff, but also likely consultant supported to take these estimated models, take the inputs for a specific region, check them against transit ridership, bike use, auto ridership, dial them in, make sure they look good, and then they can start being officially used for all the reasons we use travel demand models. So that is, I think Chris will talk a little bit more about that, but that's the high level. Just a little bit more before I turn it back to Chris. The phase one, the estimation data bundles, I just wanted to call out that there's a lot of work. We basically, so that we're all the agencies are creating those estimation data bundles consistently. We've been working both off the design document, but also kind of extrapolating a little bit to what our tool will look like. I've been working on getting instructions up and specs and standards for what all of the inputs need to look like. Still under review, still drafting, but just to note that there's like drafts working out there that the OMSC is collaborating on. Anyway, so I think then I'm going to turn it back to you, Chris, unless you want me to speak anything more about. I think we're advancing to the next slide for Chris.
Like I said, to be honest, I don't know what to share in terms of funding because there's just so much uncertainty. But just to kind of build upon what Alex has mentioned, first of all, I want to just thank Alex. I mean, this is a tremendous amount of effort to coordinate this across the state, but also just to prop up all of these contracts and that sort of thing. And one thing that wasn't mentioned, but yeah, we also had a design contract for this estimation model. Again, that was very much a collaborative effort with folks. That was completed previously. And so just to kind of reiterate the phases, and also, just to also provide a little bit of context, as Alex is mentioning, we're having a contract, so this would be an ODOT, facilitated a contract through our procurement processes to estimate. Are we calling it SMORE or SIMOR?
SMORE.
Okay.
Sounds like SMORE.
Okay. To develop SIMOR, essentially.
It's fairly big. We can't really change it now. We've got as deep as SMORE as we have.
And so as part of that contract, we have an option for this phase one, as Alex is mentioning. That's the data preparation of the bundles. ODOT's doing that work in-house, but for other NPOs that would like consultant support, they would have to provide funds, but there's an option for that in that contract to take advantage of that contract to help consultant support prepare those. And that phase two is really where that model is estimated. And then phase three is essentially, once it's estimated, work to essentially make it for the MPO specific region and have it be able for for use in the XRTP or those sorts of things. That phase three is also potential for consultant support. That's not scoped yet. Again, for ODOT's purposes, we're thinking of doing that in-house, but there's also some cost estimates of what that might be for each of the MPO regions. Again, if it is something that the MPOs would like consultant support with. Again, the idea with that too is that the MPOs would be providing that specific funding. And so anyway, with phase two, again, that's the big thing. That's the actual estimation of the model. We're estimating, it depends on the number of rounds of estimation and how full the estimation is of us using the travel survey data. But the estimate is about that $1 million mark. And so we prepared this information really kind of at the request of OMPOC, where there were some discussions about potentially using some of those savings to contribute to the funding of this phase two, the funding of the model estimation. And so we've been kind of going back and forth. What's a good way to present some of this information? And we're thinking we can have like a bare bones type of estimation where we're not fully utilizing all of the Oregon Travel Survey elements. We're doing a partial estimation of specific, high priority elements, but not using that travel survey data fully, that full estimation rounds. And then we have like a recommended part where we are essentially using that data to the fullest amount. And so these are kind of the high level estimates, essentially for that recommended, which is really, again, utilizing that $6 million investment of the travel survey. I mean, really critical, frankly, is around that 1 million. The uncertainty is everywhere, unfortunately. The uncertainty is whether OMPOC wants to contribute funds for this. It's not the end of the fiscal year, not the end of the fiscal year, but it sounds like we'll revisit that discussion at the end of the fiscal year once we know more about the exact savings, and then also kind of touching base on the MPOs to see if that's something they would like to contribute for. Another big uncertainty is everyone's budget for the next biennium, and that's true for ODOT, that's true for TPO's budget as well. But just as an FYI, this is for TPO's budget a very high priority. So we're asking for a decent amount of funds to essentially try to get it up to that recommended amount. But one thing I was trying to share here is how important those OMPOC funds actually are in terms of being able to estimate this in a timely manner, estimate it within that 2 years estimate of that. Otherwise, if we want that recommended value and we're kind of waiting for ODOT funds, it could be a possibility that's going to be in the next biennium. And so it just kind of, the timeline extends essentially of when we can estimate that model, develop that model, and for folks to use that model. So probably more context than I really needed to present here, so I apologize. But I want to at least present some information about how much this does cost and some of the uncertainties right now.
OMPOC contributed to the survey, right?
They funded the first
Scoping, right?
methodology, phase one, and then our funding, like our staff time, LCOG staff time to manage the contract.
There's precedent for OMPOC contributing to something like this, right?
Yeah, and that's when we went to Bend and asked them to contribute funds. But what Chris is talking about is OMPOC has excess funds in their budget, and so this would be kind of moving the funds to the state contract. So we've been talking with all the MPOs about what that would look like, and if the guarantee is like of all of the needs statewide that we all MPOs all have. Is that how they would want to spend those funds? And there's a lot of different perspectives on whether or not that's the right report or not.
So it's under active consideration then? Okay.
Eric Hovig at ODOT has been leading those.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. There's, I think, about $350,000 there kind of on the table. And maybe it's a portion of that ends up going to the ABM development, while another portion goes to the smaller MPOs. And Joel, LCOG is a mid-sized MPO. The Central Aid MPO is a mid-sized. So I know it feels a little hurtful. So LCOG and are the two mid-sized MPOs or Central.
Yeah,
Aid.
I thought it was a bit conspicuous from its absence. That's why I asked. Thanks.
Yeah.
Amanda had a question, and then we have Yassine.
So I answered it. I just didn't know what OMPOC was, but Google told me.
Please ignore that website. It is very dated on my list of things to update.
Yassine from-
I do have a question or more of a clarification for us for the Rogue Valley and Middle Rogue. We do have already an ABM model. Is that basically creating a new one, or are we talking about basically creating ABM for all the other MPOs?
So the model that Southern Oregon has and will continue to have uses 2010 survey data. So there is no funding to put the 23-24 data into that model. So so it'll still exist as a travel demand model. It just won't be based on this $6 million survey that the community just spent money on.
Oh, basically updating the data within and all of that.
Yeah. So this new thing is the graham crackers and the marshmallows, all of it. Yeah.
And yeah, just to clarify, for the 5 smaller MPOs that, ODOT maintains the models for, we're moving towards this similar platform. And so that's including the Southern Oregon ABM as well. It's moving towards this modeling platform and then estimated with the travel survey data. So just
Not
kind of
including the graham crackers and marshmallows. That's not very helpful.
So by default, the travel survey data would not be in the current ABM model, but a new ABM would need to be developed with all that data. Basically, is that what it is?
Well, you don't have to use the reason we're going to new ABM is because we get the benefit of not having to deploy ABMs on our own. So that's where instead of us spending several $100,000 a year to maintain our ABM, we're spending $35,000 a year to be a part of the partnership. That's the value of switching out the ABM. The survey data is not cheap to get into a travel demand model, whether trip-based or ABM. So there's several $100,000 worth of effort that go into getting new survey data into. It's not just plug and play. It's a fairly expensive process. And so we don't want to do that multiple times with our trip-based models, with our current ABM, with the new ABM. We're doing it once with the new ABM.
Okay, that clarifies it, yeah.
Sounds good. I apologize for not being so great at the time management. And just as an FYI, OMSC developed a handout and some really good information. Again, I think that Alex helped lead about the ABMs. We developed a handout for this work, like just phasing and an overview of what this will look like. Again, kind of for the OMPOC discussions, really, but it's also really good information. I'm not sure what that will look like, but as you can say, we could be developing a similar one for this work. I was going to say, let me know if there's any specifics or things that you might be good to include in there. I probably won't include the specifics about the funding, but we might have Carol finalize that handout and might ask a few folks to review it to see what's good information to convey. Otherwise, I'll stop the meeting here.